Hey everyone, it's Ivan over here on TFBTV, here to bring you a look at the 2019 Shooter Symposium. What is it? Ultimately, it is basically like this 4-day training event held at The Ranch TX down in Texas, put on by Matt Shockey. Incredible training event. Over the course of 7 days, you have the opportunity to take a whole bunch of different classes from some pretty renowned instructors. They have this like A-list list of about 12 different instructors, those of them being Scott Jedlinski from Modern Samurai Project, as well as Mike Pannone from CTT Solutions. Also there was Jared Reston from Reston Group, as well as Dan Brokos from Lead Faucet Tactical, Robert Vogel of Vogel Dynamics, Chuck Pressburg from Press Check Consulting, Steve Fisher, the Yeti from Sentinel Concepts, Bill Blowers of Tap Rack Tactical, Kerry Davis from Dark Angel Medical, Craig Douglas from ShivWorks, and Aaron Cowan from Sage Dynamics. So how does all this work? First day of the event is Thursday. Get there kind of around midday and there's basically a big briefing. Going over, hey, here's all the instructors, here's the lay of the land, here is your safety brief for all these events, to include, hey, here's our medevac plan, all these different things. And once that's done, get cut loose to go have lunch. Basically, they ended up catering all the meals there. I say all the meals, basically lunch as well as dinner. Go over there, go to the big tent, get a nice meal, sit down, talk with other people there at the event. And then they also had a whole big giant vendor tent. Bunch of vendors there to include SureFire, B.E. Meyers, Filster, all kinds of different companies, Unity Tactical, number of different companies in there. Get to actually speak with knowledgeable reps. SureFire actually had some of their like project managers out there for, I want to say flashlights, as well as one of their other project leads. And yeah, like people that can actually answer questions if you have a question about a product, which was really cool. Beyond that, they also had kind of the vendor range day, essentially. Out there was a number of people to include SureFire, letting people shoot some of their different weapon systems, or suppressors rather, attached to weapon systems. And they also had Walther out there. I believe it was their match steel frame, and some people were getting some really good hits at distance with that pistol. I personally didn't get a chance to shoot it that day, but they were out there for people to shoot as well. There was also a range set up for people to go ahead and zero their rifles. If for whatever reason you needed to actually get it zeroed, or even just confirming your rifle, they had a 50-yard range set up so everyone could zero there. Then, what was pretty cool is there was a number of competitions run by different various instructors. Whether it's something to where you have like a B5 or B8 silhouette and bring the gun up, you need to get 10 rounds in, I think a par time of like 3 seconds or something like that. And they also had one, it was kind of a little steel challenge set up with Vogel and the Jedi. I ended up doing that one. Actually, I did a couple of them, but they were really fun. They were just kind of these really fun little competitions, and you needed to like score really good for them to bother actually taking down your name and time. But if you did good, there were definitely prizes at the end of it. So fast forward into the evening, another meal catered there under the big tent, hanging out with like-minded people to include the instructors. And then they had a pretty cool like raffle giveaway, as well as the prizes for those different competitions. And for those competitions, I want to say there was like 10 different SureFire suppressors that were given out, which is pretty amazing as far as prizes go on a prize table. On top of that, tons of other swag, all kinds of goodness from SureFire and the other sponsors. Pretty amazing prize table. And then after that, there was a bar open if you chose to imbibe, and if you didn't, or at least didn't yet, the range opened back up at night so you could go over and actually zero your like laser if you're running any of the night vision classes. Get that all taken care of right then and there on Thursday night. Probably stayed up a little later than I should have Thursday night, but got up early Friday morning for the event. The event basically kicks off Friday morning as far as the actual structured classes. So again, Big list, 12 amazing instructors, and they have the next 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, blocked out with a number of classes. Keep in mind, some of the classes are like a 4 or 5 hour block. Others are essentially a full day. So you could have shorter classes like before lunch or after lunch, whereas other ones might go from before lunch basically to dinner. So first and second half of the day. And then others, depending on how they were structured, they may bleed into the night. So you might have a class start in the afternoon and go till like 10 o'clock that night, maybe even midnight. So for me personally, while those instructors had basically this big graph of, hey, I'm gonna be at this range, this time to this time, teaching this, what I was signed up for on Friday, that first day, was with Craig Douglas at ShivWorks. Of all the classes offered, I'm not gonna say this was like the best class. I will say probably the most applicable to the widest audience, i.e., like some of the classes I took, which I'll get to later, like the Brokos gunfighting class in and around vehicles, it's a blast. So much fun. Working white light, shooting out of vehicles at night, all that stuff. Incredible time. Is that applicable to people? Absolutely. It can happen, it does happen, especially depending on your actual like career field, like where you go to work. But conversely, the ShivWorks class is like, hey, this is where a lot of altercations between people start and end, like in this one arm's distance. So how do you negotiate violence that close up? To that end, amazing class. Basically started out, it was again, all day class, and started out kind of crawl, walk, run. Initially, just working on some different fundamental things, whether it's essentially kind of posture or some very simple, replicable techniques as far as, hey, underhook, different things like that. And yeah, you essentially worked with your partner and you would scale the intensity up and down, making sure you kind of got a grasp of it. Keeping in mind, all of these classes are abbreviated. None of these instructors have like, oh, come out to my 4-hour class. Like, no, they're all usually at least a day, if not like 3 days. So same true with this ShivWorks class, condensed version. But because of, it's one of those, I say simple, like it's simple on its face, like some of the techniques, easy to replicate, not this like crazy, beautiful martial art, like emphasis on the art part, but easily replicable at the same time, like hard to perfect, but hey, like do this, and you're like, oh, okay, that works, cool, press on with that. And so pretty much worked throughout the day working these different techniques, and at the very end of it culminated in, I won't say full speed, full power, but essentially going through this essentially scenario driven training to more or less prove out what you had learned like kind of through the course of the day. Course culminated in this training event where you cycled through 3 different positions. Position 1, for the sake of this argument, we'll say is the good guy. You have a Glock 19 sim gun in your waistline, as well as a training knife. Across from you, you have aggressor number 1 with a training knife in their waistline, and then over off to the side, held by the instructor, you have aggressor number 2, which has some gloves on. Everyone has these big helmets on, and you start as the good guy, underhooking aggressor 1 and grabbing the wrist of aggressor 1 as well. On the word go, you're cut loose. You have 6 seconds to deal with that problem, after which the guy with the gloves is coming in swinging. So sort it out. And that's just what people did, like fight through it no matter what you get. My trio ended up going last, and the first position I started at was the boxer dude. Pretty much went in when I got cut loose, bunch of body shot. You don't want to go in there and just smoke some dude in the head when he's obviously fixated on trying to solve another problem. Nobody wins, like you're not there to hurt someone. Went in, threw some body shots. Next position I was at was aggressor 1. And as that started to unfold, I felt the good guy go for his pistol, this Glock sim gun. Only thing going through my mind was, I'm not gonna get shot with sims. I got a t-shirt on, that stuff's uncomfortable, don't wanna get shot. Did my best to basically pin his gun into the holster, push him back up against the vehicle. He finally ended up fighting, got the gun free. I'm pretty sure he missed me on those shots. And then after that, he ended up losing the gun and things kind of went south, got my knife out, started going to town stabbing. And that was an adventure, but the guy ended up fighting through it and finally got back to his feet. Next up, I was up as the good guy. So I had my pistol, I had my knife. And knowing this guy's coming in at 6 seconds. So on the command, we start struggling. I immediately do my best, break the guy away, create space, both pushing him in one direction, moving myself in the other direction, so I could get my pistol out. After that, start dropping rounds into this guy at pretty close distances. They were nasty bruises. I saw them later. Sorry for that, buddy. But the scenario is still going. So it's like, damn, I'm like fighting a zombie right here, man. So he comes in, and then I'm seeing the other guy getting cut loose. So I'm like, well, if the pistol's not solving this, obviously I need to transition to a knife. Pull the knife out, start fighting this guy, and then Puncher, he gets cut loose. So he comes in, I break a shot at him, go to slide lock. I'm like, well, been here before. Like, Glock didn't just give me a shooter, they actually gave me an impact tool, right? Take this thing, boom, muzzle punch this guy with it, come back, end up hammer striking him, and that's about when things got cut. They're like, all right, done. I'm like, whew. But here's what that looks like, pretty much full speed all the way through.
Ready? Go! 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006. One's coming in. Nice. Fight! Good job. Nicely done.
I'm gonna beat you to death with my gun.
I think people have some pretty skewed, kind of romanticized views of what fighting looks like within that one arm's distance. It's like, yeah, like a 1 second draw. Don't get me wrong, by the time you're done with it, you're like, yeah, I want a 1 second draw and I want to solve all my problems from about 25 yards away, because that's not where I want to be. But regrettably, most altercations that turn into a shooting fight aren't like, hey, I'm going to escalate things with you over there 25 yards away. Sorry, man, like that's not how this usually works. And that ShivWorks class, amazing class. At some point, I would like to actually take the full class, which obviously wouldn't be as compressed of a kind of curriculum. I believe it's taught over the course of 3 days. But that was my Friday, ultimately, leading up till dinner time. After dinner, though, went out to the range, because we're already here. Why not do a little bit of shooting? And actually had a little bit of fun under nods, shooting some steel.
What's that? You guys can call it. It's kind of tempting to.
Next class I took was the essentially fighting under nods. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was with Pressburg from Press Check Consulting. And the first half of the class, like 4 or 5 hours, was after dinner, bringing us up to probably like midnight or something. It was all classroom portion, and honestly, if I was able to retain everything, I'd probably have like a master's in night vision, if that's even a thing. Pretty much went into the whole theory, how things actually work, like into the weeds. Whether it's your thing or not, that's what it is. And yeah, like if you can appreciate all kind of the backstory, the how, the why, all these different things, you will love it because it goes very in depth. And after spending that big classroom portion, took a break, headed out to the range. We probably weren't on the range till probably around like midnight or maybe 1 or something like that. And once out there, ended up getting under nods, getting our lasers up, and proceeded to 0. After going through the zeroing process, make sure everyone had a good solid 0 at like 50 yards. Really big accountability with respect to where your rounds are. We weren't just like shooting steel. Like we're shooting on paper, go up, check your target, mark anything that is outside this B8. And so yeah, proceeded with shooting. From there, after having a good 0, establishing that, moved into some more kind of dynamic stuff as far as shooting and moving, which on one hand is relatively easier than I guess shooting and moving during daylight, because you have a laser, like you see exactly where it is, you keep it there, and you kind of end up getting into a rhythm to where you can break your shots. And of course, as you get closer, that cadence of fire can speed up versus being further back. You need to kind of take your time more. And also the other half of that though, being able to manage your recoil. Like, yeah, you can tuck that thing under your arm and start breaking shots and you can be accurate, but you can't really mitigate recoil like that. So figuring out how to actually manipulate the weapon under nods, get good shots at a pretty good speed, and yeah, kind of progressing from there. During that course, I was running PVS 14s on a OpsCore helmet. In addition to that, on my weapon, I ended up running a Maul by B.E. Meyers. That thing is incredible. In addition to that, I also had a SureFire Scout Light with their vampire head, gave me plenty of IR flood for anything I needed to illuminate. That course ended up kind of culminating in an event that, again, going back to an earlier course in Reston, kind of worked some on that. Totally different game under nods. So the idea of being aimed in, engage a target over here, and then moving to engage a target over here. So of course, what people want to do is they want to just like follow this laser, like where's the laser pointed? Versus same thing you want to do during the day so you can get fast splits is see your target, engage it, come over here, see it, turn, engage it, engage it. So again, leading with our eyes, and that was a hard one to, actually get through, in part because it's relatively dark, and depending on your illuminator and the illumination, you can look over here, but you won't really see it until like the flood comes around to it, and then you can actually get on target, engage. Overall, incredible class. Honestly, I probably would have appreciated it more if I had set up my schedule a little better, but carbine pistol class in the morning, pistol class in the afternoon, and then this class that evening into next morning. We basically finished around 5:30 in the morning, at which point I was done. I was ready for sleep. Sunday, finally woke up around 12:30. I was gonna actually take the Dark Angel medical class Sunday morning. That did not happen. I was done, I needed rest. But got back there to the Ranch TX, and the class I was going to take with Steve Fisher, Sentinel Concepts, it got canceled. It was dumping rain pretty much the first half of the day, and it was an intermediate carbine course. So from behind cover, different shooting positions, like 50 yards out to 300 with 5.56. Really wanted to take it, but that whole range back there is just like this huge soupy mess to the point where they had to cancel it. So I was like, well, what else is going on? So I ended up getting in on a Dan Brokos class with Lead Faucet Tactical. Again, incredible class. This one was basically pistol as well as rifle, and same thing, crawl, walk, run. Initially starting with our carbine, taking shots from your strong side, transitioning shots from your support side, while kind of taking steps forward. Range was disgustingly muddy, huge puddles, but everyone pushed through it. Initially, after working through that, moved back and then started doing some work around barricades, just kind of different shooting positions. Hey, here's this, here's this, here's this. Kind of work on these different ones, not only with your strong side, but also with your support side. After we worked on that a while, it's time to move up and actually do a little pistol work. Same thing with pistol. Again, working different positions, this time directly around a vehicle, whether it is under a tire or around the bumper. Again, trying to keep a really low profile, whether you're shooting over a hood, anything like that, and working through different pistol. Ultimately different, like these different techniques. Hey, here's all these different ones, use what works, here's your environment. And get in to kind of just plug them in and see what worked for you where. Eventually we progressed to the point of working inside of a vehicle to the outside of the vehicle and kind of putting everything together. Broke for dinner, came back and had the second half of the class. At that point, we transitioned from that twilight into straight up darkness and working different techniques as far as activating our light, whether it's rifle mounted like my SureFire Scout light or my X300 on my pistol, or even implementing like handheld lights. Wasn't really expecting that portion, and because of that, I had this guy, SureFire Stiletto. Kind of my first experience with it, but it absolutely did work. While it's kind of a general everyday carry light, absolutely worked, being able to create shooting positions with it using my STI Staccato P. So from there, moving into all this, essentially shooting at night with white light in and around a vehicle. And with that, culminated into a pretty awesome final event. If memory serves, the final event evolution was called Carjack This. It's pretty fun. You started with a partner in this vehicle on the command of threat, draw out, basically shooting through this windshield. Already been pretty shot out at that point, but shooting through the windshield, gauge a target, end up shooting out the V. Ultimately have to go back, recover your carbine, start engaging at distance, and making your way across these different shooting positions to like a set of barricades, and then ultimately over to another vehicle. Awesome, it was a lot of fun. And it's one of those where like, hey, this is really fun, it's a blast, yes. Definitely learned stuff. One of the biggest things for me coming away from that is I was shooting with a low power variable. So I had a Collis 1:6 and a ScalarWorks mount, and that can be pretty trying at times, especially trying to shoot white light at night. It actually worked really well. Part of it was the suggestion by Brokos, and it's like, hey, if you have an LPV or LPVO, whatever, if you're running a low powered variable optic and you're having a hard time picking it up, crank that thing up in magnification a little bit. And sure enough, I put that thing on about 3 magnification at night and crushing all the steel out there at distance. Occasionally I'd have to wait a second for kind of smoke and dust to clear, like shooting through a vehicle with a SureFire SOCOM RC2 suppressor on there. And yeah, like dust and everything coming down. But yeah, like having that little bit of magnification, that was pretty clutch. Really easy to just get on target and keep shooting regardless of shooting support side or not. As far as left, right eye dominant, that was actually really big, and yeah, that was a big takeaway from me for that class. Side note, on that last event, my buddy Chris, who's there, freelance writer, writing an article for Recoil, he and I were partnered up, and we actually won that last little event. Best time overall, pretty fun. But that event pretty much took us till like more or less midnight Sunday night, and we were the last range open, the last people shooting. That pretty much ended the entire 4-day event that was Shooter Symposium. What do I have to say about it? It's incredible. Like, on the one hand, you have this all-star cast of instructors that are there, and they're there. Like, you can go interact with them, be like, hey, I had a question about this, or hey, like, when's your next class? And they'll tell you when their next class is, whatever it may be. And you actually have a chance to interact with them around meals, around the campfire at night, whatever it is. Really cool guys. But on top of that, you have this huge pool of people. I want to say there's 150 slots open where people can come as far as students. And yeah, that's a giant pool of like 150 people that are like-minded. They're there for the same reason you are. They want to go get some awesome training from some great instructors. And incredible event. This was the second annual event they had, the first one being in 2018, this one being early April 2019, and there's going to be one slated for 2020. As I understand it, this one is a lot bigger as far as just kind of turnout, vendors there, everything along those lines, and I can see it progressing and just getting bigger and bigger from there. But ultimately an incredible event if you want to go shoot with some of these amazing instructors and you're like, hey, why not make one trip out to Texas, knock everything out at once? This might be the spot. Go there, stack up your schedule, and get some really good training with a lot of really good people. Also, thank you to SureFire, to include Andrew, Chris, Alan, the whole gang over there. They did a ton, basically make this event happen. Really appreciate all your guys' hard work. Lastly, thank you to Ventura Munitions, keeping TFBTV shooting. If you're interested in the Shooter Symposium, there's a link down below. Maybe go sign up for 2020, go out there, get some good training, amazing facility, a lot of great people. Thanks for watching here on TFBTV.